Hi everyone, I'm Barrister Hamna Zain and today's topic is liquidated damages. Now, today's lecture is not specifically made for students. It's in fact made for professionals who are working in companies, mostly corporate companies, and who actually face this term liquidated damages a lot, quite a lot in their day-to-day life. And also it's not only for legal counsels, general counsels, or someone who is a lawyer and practicing corporate law or making contracts. It's also for other people. For instance, somebody who's a engineer, somebody who's working in technical department. So it's also important to actually be aware of how the term liquidated damages come into effect in a contract. Now, since everybody who's working in companies, they actually go through this term liquidated damages a lot, and it's mostly come in operation when the contracts such as construction contracts, engineering contracts, telecom contracts are made. But then let me just tell you that it's not specifically for these construction, engineering, telecom contracts. It is actually for, or it could be used for all kinds of contracts. So it could be like a partnership deed, or it could be like a normal contract where two parties come into place. So even for FMCG companies as well. So it depends on the parties that whether they want to put in the clause liquidated damages or not in the contract they're making. Now, what are liquidated damages? So, $1,000,000 question. What are liquidated damages? Liquidated damages, let me just explain you in very simple words that liquidated damages is a form of damage. So under contract law, and this is not specifically related to contract law of Pakistan, but in general contract law all over the world, that liquidated damages are a form of damages. So when a contract is made between two parties, when you enter into a contract and two parties enter into a contract and they make a contract, there could be a possibility of one of the parties actually breaching the contract or non-performance of the contract. So there's a possibility that one of the parties can actually breach any of the terms of the contract. So what will happen in that case scenario? If you breach a contract and the other parties breaching the contract, what happens and how the other party is actually remedied or protected by the law. So how the other party is protected, forget law, it's just generally how the other party will be protected. Now I'll give you an example of two parties. Now to make it more simple, let's just say that Hamna owns a construction company. So who is Hamna? Hamna is running a construction company. I have a construction company, and what happens that I enter into a contract with Ali that I will construct a clinic. So Ali is a doctor and I am going to construct a clinic for Ali. So clinic would be so Ali is a doctor and he needs a clinic to be constructed. Now what happens? So I was giving you the example of Hamna and Ali. Hamna owns a construction company, I own a construction company, and I have promised Ali, the doctor, to build a clinic for him within, what's the timeline? It could be 6 months, for example. So I am promising Ali, Dr. Ali, that I am going to build a clinic for him within 6 months. Now what is this? We have entered into a contract and there is offer acceptance consideration, and then there is a timeline as well. So a time that I have promised that I will complete the clinic building for him within 6 months. Now what happens? While we are drafting, constructing, or formatting the contract, so we are in the process of negotiation, me and Ali are getting into a contract. So this is before the signing of the contract, when we are typing and drafting the terms and conditions of the contract. What happens that Ali thinks about the fact that, okay, wait, fine, the Hamna promised that she's going to build a clinic within 6 months in this much amount. So for example, in 5 lakh rupees I am going to bill him within 6 months. So Ali thinks that, hold a second, I'm a doctor and I have a lot of patients and I practice. So what if during the 6 months there is some sort of delay and Hamna is not able to complete the clinic within 6 months. In fact, she completes this project with in 8 months. So what happens then? So Ali thinks about this fact, and Ali puts in his agreement, that me and Ali are going to enter into, that in case of any delay from me, so any delay from my side, Hamna, there will be liquidated damages. I'll call it LDs from now onwards. So there will be LDs imposed upon Hamna in case she delays the clinic. Why? Because Ali thinks that he has got a lot of patients, and if, for example, there's even one day delay, there could be he will suffer a lot of losses. So due to that, what he does is that Ali gets a pre-estimate of any losses that he can actually possibly suffer during the period of contract which is being delayed. So if the contract is delayed, what happens then? Then I am sort of in breach of the contract, right? But Ali does not want to terminate the contract. Ali thinks that, terminating the contract would be very, it would actually go against him, because he has already paid half of the money and the building is already there. Maybe 1 month or 2 more months are left. So let's just do what? That impose liquidated damages on Hamna. Why? Because I will be suffering liquidated damages on Hamna for each day. So daily liquidated damages will be imposed upon me till the time I have completed the project, right? So I promised Ali to complete it on 1st October, and so from 1st October the building has not been constructed, clinic has not been constructed. So from 1st onwards, from 2nd onwards, there will be a LDs imposed upon me. So each day's delay, LDs will be imposed upon me till I have not performed or constructed the clinic, so not performed my duties as per this contract. Now you must be thinking, okay, for each day's delay, why each day delay? It could be weeks. Yes, that totally depends upon both the parties. It's not necessary that, this is just an example I was giving. It's not necessary that you put everyday delay, or it could be hourly delays as well. So for a lot of companies which are into business like telecom sector, they do hourly delays, because there's a lot of loss, or there's a lot at stake for them. So this is how the LDs will be imposed. Now, what are LDs? Let me repeat it again, that liquidated damages are a pre-estimate of any losses that a party can possibly suffer during the period of the contract, during the period of the contract when the contract, or if the contract has been breached or delayed. Breach is the right term. So Ali has fixed the amount of damages for the breach of contract at the time of the formation of contract. So don't forget this, that LDs will always be estimated. LDs will be estimated before signing. So LDs are, by the way, liquidated damages. I call it LDs. LDs are going to be fixed, right? Ali is going to decide what LDs will be imposed upon Hamna. So for example, for each day's delay, he will be losing 10 patients. So 10 patients, for one patient he takes 2,000 rupees fee. So how many patients? Like every day 2,000 rupees into 10 patients. So that will be the actual loss that Ali has estimated, pre-estimated, and put it in the contract for each day's delay. it will always be pre-estimated losses, like LDs will always be before the signing of the contract. It is basically a clause in the contract that is a part of the contract, and when you sign it off, that means both the parties, which is Hamna and Ali, have agreed to such damages. So Hamna has agreed that Ali has imposed every day, for example, sorry, my maths is very bad, so for example 10,000 rupees for each day. So Hamna has agreed that 10,000 I will pay, for instance, if it's not completed in 1st October, in fact 2nd October, 3rd October. So 5,000 every day, 5,000 on the 2nd, then 5,000 on the 3rd, so it will be multiplied, so forth, so on and so forth. So now let me explain one more thing to you. Professionally speaking, you know, I've been practicing corporate law for the past 9 to 10 years now. What happens is that it, just like I said, that it is actually a pre-estimate loss that parties decide prior to the signing of the contract. So it could be, actually it depends on the nature of the business and the contract and the relationship between the parties as well. So it could be liquidated damages could be actually calculated till like will be imposed on a certain person. So for example, me in this case, for a week. So for a week, liquidated damages will be imposed upon me, and there will be, in the contract itself, there will be a minimum threshold. So there is a clause, LD clause, then there is a minimum threshold and a maximum threshold. So minimum is starting for every day is 5,000, and the maximum could reach up to 50,000. I mean, so you can calculate that how many days 50,000, how many days we need from 5,000 to 50,000 for 50,000 to reach. So how many days do we need for that? Maybe, I don't know, two weeks. I don't know. I would need a calculator for that. So so that would be the maximum threshold. So in a lot of contracts, what we do is we write clauses like that Hamna will be liable for liquidated damages for each day's delay up to a maximum of 50,000 rupees, right? So that means what? That the 50,000 has reached. Now you have reached the maximum cap of your liquidated damages. So Hamna has paid the amount till 50,000, and still it's not being completed. So what happens then? So Ali's discretion is, it's mostly written in the contract, but Ali's discretion is, and also it is in the contract, as per the contract could be terminated after that, or the liquidated damages can go on and go on till the completion of the project, like I said, or it could be for a week as well. So that totally depends on the parties. So liquidated damages are what? Liquidated damages is a genuine, realistic pre-estimate of the loss that you are going to suffer if the contract is breached, and which is a part of the contract, and it is always written before the signing of the contract. So now this principle is supported in Dunlop case. It's a very famous case, that liquidated damages are the genuine covenanted pre-estimate of damages. So this is obviously for exam purposes, that you can write down this case law, but just to give you an example of how these there are a lot of case laws which actually support this concept and principle. The word Dunlop, it actually is one of the most famous cases for liquidated damages. That liquidated damages are the genuine covenanted pre-estimate of damages. So what happens that when, for example, I breach the contract and Ali takes me to court because I have to pay liquidated damages. So what happens then? Court will, under the pursuant to the terms of the contract, which are LDs have been already decided and calculated in the contract, the court will allow the reasonable damages, that amount of damage the court is going to allow for me to pay to Ali, and which will be, for example, it's 50,000 rupees. So the court will allow up till 50,000. So it could be less than that, or it could be 50, but it cannot exceed that. So now, what is the purpose of this concept of liquidated damages? Why do we need it? Why do we use it? It's basically, it helps you as a party to the agreement to avoid any delay. So for instance, if there is a breach by one of the parties, so the party who's actually aggrieved party who's suffering the breach will be saving time in when you will be saving time, and like for example, you have to go to courts, and the court is going to decide what the actual damages were, what the aggrieved party has occurred, so actual damages and this and that and etc. So that is going to take a lot of time. So it's basically very helpful to have liquidated damages clause in your contract rather than just leaving it blank. So it will really help you to go to the courts and say that, look, this is the liquidated damages written in the contract, and the defaulting party has to pay that, and then court will allow that to happen, rather than actually going into another dispute of what was the damages, what were actual, what were real, what were indirect damages, and so on and so forth. One more thing. So for liquidated damages to be imposed, now always remember that everyone who's listening to this recording, remember that liquidated damages need not to be a very unreasonable figure. Just because you're writing a contract and you have a free hand, and the other party does not really understand contracts that well, so you say, okay, fine, I will put liquidated damages value. So the value is $50 million. For what? Obviously depending on the contract is. So for example, I have to provide 5 crates of Pepsi bottles to certain person, and he says, okay, if Hamna forgets to, if she delays or forgets of this, she breaks one bottle or two, or so on and so forth, like if there's any delay, so she will pay $50 million, so that is what is that? That is unreasonable. So for LDs to be imposed, remember that for liquidated damages to be imposed and actually be enforceable in the court of law, you have to make it reasonable. So it has to be reasonable. So the reasonable loss that you can suffer if there is a breach of contract, that is the amount that you need to put it in your contract, rather than making it a very hypothetical and a very unreasonable figure. So what is the general test of liquidated damages? What's the general test? So there is a general test. The general test for liquidated damages. So number 1 is liquidated damages are added if losses are difficult to calculate. So what is this? To decide or to estimate. So what is the general test for liquidated damages? Liquidated damages, they for instance, if something is any losses which are very difficult to calculate, or to, for example, the general test, number 1 condition is difficult to calculate. Now I'll give you an example of another contract which is related to this test. I enter into a contract with someone, and then there is a confidential clause in that agreement, and I am providing that person confidential information. So for that confidential information could be my construction company is very confidential information, or anything that is confidential, like records, financial statements, bank statements, etc. to Ali for whatever reasons. So as per the requirements, or it could be not Ali. It's usually confidential information is disclosed from one party to another party. It's not necessarily from one individual to another. It could be. So if there is a breach in that confidential clause, So my confidential information is disclosed to the public, right? So what's gonna happen then? What is going to happen is that I don't know that what losses I could possibly suffer because of that leak of the confidential information. It could be the confidential information could be leaked to one party, like a private person, or it could be the public, or it could be the media. It could be like maybe international media on Google, on social media. So I don't know what kind of losses I will possibly be suffering. So there will be reputational loss and etc., a lot of losses. In that case scenario, when I want to make sure that this is the amount, that in case my confidential information is leaked, then I will write it down. So usually the test is to when the losses are very difficult to calculate, then you have to put it down and have a pre-estimate. Number 2, like I previously explained, number 2 test is reasonable forecast of amount. So there has to be a reasonable forecast of amount. It cannot be $50 million for providing 2 packs of Coke or Nestle water bottles or anything, So it has to be reasonable. Number 3 is should not be a penalty. What is this? You must be thinking, here is penalty, right? Well, in layman terms, yes, it is a liquidated damages, is sort of penalty, but in legal language and legally speaking, it's not a penalty. There is a difference between liquidated damages and there is a difference between penalty, which I think I will have recorded another lecture for that. I'll just give you an example, a very, very small example, that penalties are those which are not written and calculated in the contract. They are basically actual losses that I will suffer in case there is a breach of contract, and because of that I go to court and I say that, look, I have suffered these kind of losses, so these are my actual losses. I will provide receipts of that and I'll have proof to back up those losses. So those are direct losses, actual losses. So that is a penalty, basically you're penalizing the party for that. But then it liquidated damages